working on. So first of all, I think, we saw at the start of the start of the parent revolution and really standing up for parents' rights during COVID. And Governor DeSantis kind of led the way with that. And so you're hoping to take kind of that same energy, I think, across the nation. So talk a little bit about Mamas for DeSantis, what that looks like, and kind of what you did and what you hope to do. Because I'm telling you, we're all pretty impressed you can get that many people engaged in a short time in that election cycle. So we want to hear more about how you did it and what it looks like.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we are going to launch the largest mobilization of moms and grandmothers across the United States of America to protect the innocence of our children and to protect the rights of parents. And we're excited because we're going to get everybody engaged, particularly here in Iowa. We did this when the governor was going through his reelection because we saw there was a constituency of folks who really wanted a voice. And it wasn't just Republicans, it was independents, but a lot of Democrats too, who didn't like the direction that the country was going. So we launched Mamas for DeSantis. We called it a big call to action, and we had 1.1 million moms and grandmothers sign up to support the effort. And we had a huge contingency of grandmothers in the villages, I'm not going to lie. And it's one thing when your policies come after us as mamas. It's another thing when your policies come after our children. And that's when the claws come out. And so, going back, and I'm going to compliment the governor here because she led with conviction. She did what she knew in her heart was right, particularly during COVID. And I think that kind of backbone and strength is what is lacking in society. And that's why you saw so many moms come out in support of the governor in Florida and why you saw him win by a reelection of 20 points. 1.5 million votes. That's why you saw the governor win by 20 points, because they held the line in defense of people's rights, liberties, and freedoms and never backed down. And we're so proud. But it was COVID that was really what led to a lot of this parental empowerment revolution, because for the first time, parents were peering into the classroom and they did not like what was being taught. They saw this sexualized curriculum being thrust in front of 5-year-olds. You saw what they were doing with women's sports, giving biological men the opportunity to take opportunities from women in athletics who have spent their entire life doing this. The governor passed something in Florida called curriculum transparency. Basically what that was, that enabled parents to be able to go to the schools to say, I want to see what kind of curriculum you're teaching our kids. And if they didn't give that information to the parent in a timely manner, they then had a right of action to be able to sue. And it was also tied to the principal's teaching certificate. And what that led to was the discovery of pornography in a lot of these schools, in their libraries. And a lot of parents are really frustrated. I talked to other parents across the state whose children were being transitioned behind their back without their consent or their knowledge. So far as there's a lady in Tallahassee, right where we live, January Littlejohn, and her daughter was being transitioned. They were changing her name behind her mother's back. They were asking her, you want to be called a boy or a girl? What bathroom do you want to use? And this isn't okay in this time in society. It's not okay to take the rights of parents away from them. And so that's why the governor and myself have stood strong. It also is safe communities too. When you look at defunding law enforcement, moms want to ensure that their kids can walk home from school safely. And if you're taking the resources away from the community and preventing that, that's a problem. So we have been able to mobilize a lot of moms, and I will say too, and I'm sure you heard this, Governor, when you were elected, don't rock the boat. Governor DeSantis, you live in a swing state. You only won by 0.4% in the first election, 32,000 votes in a state of 22 million. You try to do anything too bold, they're going to come after you. You're not going to win re-election. He rejected that. He led with principle, courage, and conviction. And like I said, he won by 1.5 million votes. But you know what? He won women by nearly 10 points, the first Republican governor in nearly 50 years to do that. He won more than 50% of single women. And these policies policies of standing up for our families, standing up for moms and dads, and standing up in defense of the innocence of our children, it resonates across parties. He was able to win 20% of independents and 30% of Hispanics. So never back down and always stay true to what you believe in, because at the end of the day, you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I did it right. I wake up in the morning and I know I'm doing it for the right reasons for our children and for our families.
Yay. I could not agree more. Tell the people what you're going to do and follow through with it and be bold and do what you need to do. So I could not agree more. You know, so you guys are out there kind of front and center. Everybody's looking at what you're doing. Everybody's got a comment on what you're doing. How do you stay focused, and how do you block out kind of just the criticism that just unfolds, especially in today's society with social media and with just all of the attacks coming at you from every single angle? You talked about just a little bit, but how do you tune that out and stay focused, and really what drives you?
I should ask you that question. Honestly, like, she got attacked just like Ron did in Florida. And she didn't back down. She held the line.
Meltdowns with the media is what I saw sometimes. It's like, oh, for heaven's sakes. But
yeah,
talk to us a little bit about that.
But, you know, as I've traveled Iowa, I'm seeing a lot of similarities really quickly about Florida and Iowa. The people have your back, despite what the corporate media says, despite what the left is saying, despite what some Republicans who might not like what you're doing are saying. The people, at the end of the day, want a restoration of sanity. They want common sense. They want truth. And they want somebody with a backbone and who isn't afraid to
They are
stand up
so
for what's
tired
right.
of people caving. Tell them what you're going to do, and then go do it, right? Common sense. It's so easy. They make it complicated, I think, sometimes, and we don't need to. Yeah.
Don't you feel like that's a novel concept?
Yeah.
Like, you're a rarity, you know
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Like, you and the governor. Like, you see so many politicians that go out and they wax poetic and they say they're going to do all these wonderful things, and when they get up to places like Washington, D.C., they go rogue, they go native, they care more about what's happening in the Beltway press than staying true to their convictions and what they told the people that they would do. And that's why your governor is so impressive and so well respected in your state. And that's why Ron is receiving, I think, the praise across the nation that he's doing, because at the end of the day, you know, you're doing what you know in your heart is right, and you're backing down, and the people appreciate that. So how do I handle the criticism? We'll see how the end of this day turns out, right? Not every day you get to sit down with the governor of Iowa. You know, so I have a dear friend in Florida who's like, and I don't want to get her age wrong because she'll probably get mad at me, but she's 82 years old. 83, 82, round down, 80 years old. And she is a dear friend and adult, and she was friends with Margaret Thatcher. And she had the opportunity to ask Margaret Thatcher that very same question when she asked her, how do you respond to all of the negative criticisms and everything that you get? And I'll try to get the accent right a little bit, but she said to my friend, and my friend's name is Gay, and she goes, Gay dear, I don't read it. And you know what? When she told me that, I'm like, yep, you know what? I don't read it. Sure, does a lot of people say, I saw a not so great article about you and X, Y, and Z, and it's, you know, it's not true and whatever, you pass it along, but I'm not going to read any of that stuff, because at the end of the day, you know, you just stand up for truth and decency and integrity and character and morals, and you know, I don't care. And Governor, I will say this. I have a very unique perspective on life. Many of you might not know my story. Maybe some of you do. You know, you talked about at the top about being a cancer survivor. Well, there was a time in my life where I didn't know if I was going to see my kids graduate from kindergarten, let alone high school. And I was able to beat that back, and I had some really long, difficult battles. As a matter of fact, I remember, and the governor was getting criticized for doing this with me, but I remember every single chemotherapy appointment that I went to, and there were 6 of them, and they were long, and they were very hard, and I had to wear this dumb cold cap on my head that was like an ice cube. You're like in an igloo for 6 or 7 hours, and he held my hand during every single one of them, and he never left my side. And I'll tell you what, when you go through something like that, and you're in the middle of the night, scared, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you crawl into bed with your kids, and you're getting hope for tomorrow that you can have some more time with them, and then you realize that God has given you more opportunity to be able to live. When you're given that opportunity in life, what do you do with it? Do I care what a headline says? No. I care about protecting the innocence of my children and your children.
Never.
So as long as I have breath in my body, I will go out and I will fight for Ron DeSantis, not because he's my husband, that is a part of it, but it's because I believe in him in every ounce of my being. If you want somebody to go up to Washington, D.C. to clean house, to be able to put this country back on the trajectory where we are talking about our rights coming from our Creator and our government being put in place to protect our rights that are ours, he is the man to do it. And if I have to crisscross this country, I'll do it.
Well, Ann talked about it a little bit. Amen. And second chances, right? And then thanks for all the prayers, because that makes a big difference too. I say that all the time too. I mean, I feel it. I felt it. I can't tell you how much we both appreciate the prayers, not only over us and our spouses, but our children and our family. I appreciate that a lot. Ann talked about a little bit, and you just hit on just getting stuff done, somebody hitting the ground. I mean, I always say I didn't run to preserve the status quo. I ran to get things done, and I am, same thing, a woman on a mission, and I think you're a woman on a mission too.